We're gonna make sugar cookie cutouts. I love a sugar cookie to taste like a sugar cookie and a lot less like flour. So that's what we're gonna make today. And before I even get started gathering up my ingredients, I always put together my cookie sheets with parchment paper on them. It will really depend on what size of cookies you're going to cut out, whether you're going to cut out something small or something larger. It will depend on how many cookie sheets you will need. I usually put together 4 because I'd rather have too many cookie sheets ready to go than to be scrambling around and getting them, and you'll understand a little bit more in a moment. So we'll get started. Hi, today we are going to make cutout sugar cookies, or sugar cookies that we cut out. I love this recipe because the cookies really hold their shape, but the reason that they hold their shape is because you start out with 1 cup of unsalted cold butter, and it's really important that it comes right straight from the refrigerator. The cold is what helps the cookies to keep their shape. So in a stand mixer, I have 1 1/4 cups of white sugar, the 1 cup of cold unsalted butter. When I put the stand mixer down, I'm going to go ahead and lock it into place, the head of it into place, and we are going to mix together the butter and the sugar. And we're going to mix it until it gets smooth. According to the temperature in your house and the humidity, it will depend on exactly how long it takes, but probably about a minute for it to mix up and become smooth. So this is the consistency that we're looking for, and I'll show it to you in the bowl. That's the first step. The next thing that we're going to do is that we are going to add 2 large eggs, and it's really important that you add these 1 at a time. And once the eggs are just combined, it'll kind of look about like this. We are going to add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And we really just want to mix this just until it's incorporated. Next, we are going to add in our flour. So this recipe that I use calls for between 3 and 4 cups of all-purpose flour. And again, that's kind of going to depend on the humidity in your house, how warm or how cold it is. I find that most times I make this recipe, I use 3 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. I also don't like my sugar cookies to taste like flour. I like them to taste a little more like sugar. I like them to taste good. All right, so in here I have my 3 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to add to that, I have a 1/2 cup of cornstarch. It's really important to use cornstarch, it's white, and that you're not using cornmeal or corn flour, so cornstarch. And then I also have a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Again, it's really important to use kosher salt and not just table salt. If you use the table salt, they'll be more salty. And I really like the way that the kosher salt kind of gives that extra little bit of salt along with the sugar. It's a really good combination. So once you have this all in a bowl, you're just going to use a whisk and mix that together. And then we are going to add this into the sugar and egg mixture that we already have. So I start out with this on low, and I've already added some to the mixer. And then as we go along, I'm just going to keep adding the flour mixture. And what we're looking for is we're looking for this mixture, and we're going to speed our little mixer up to about medium after we get all the ingredients added in there. So what we're looking for is that we are looking for this dough to all kind of clump together and pull away from the sides of the mixing bowl. So this is where you'll kind of realize, gosh, do I need to add a little more flour or not? So if it doesn't start to pull away from the sides of the bowl, you'll add another little bit of flour. I usually have an extra cup, quarter cup of flour ready to go if I need it. The other thing that really matters, like I said in the beginning, is that you use the really cold unsalted butter right out of the refrigerator. So if your butter is a little warm, you also may end up having to use a little more flour to get the ingredients to pull away from the side of the mixer. So once the dough starts to kind of clump together like this, and you'll also see it will really start to pull away from the bowl. It's kind of what the consistency that you're gonna have. Okay, so now that we have the cookie dough all made, now is the fun part. We're gonna roll them out and cut them out. This is my favorite part. So I have found that if you roll out a smaller amount of dough at a time, it's a lot easier to control how thick you make it. And I have also this really awesome trick, is that you want to roll out your cookies on a piece of parchment paper, and you put another piece of parchment paper right on top of the dough, and it makes it so much easier to roll them out. And then that way you're not having to constantly flour the surface, which, as I told you before, I really don't like a sugar cookie that tastes more like flour. So this will help to eliminate the flour taste to your cookies. So we're going to go ahead and roll this out to 1/4 thickness. That's why I do have a rolling pin that has the thickness on the end. You can find those usually at Walmart or on Amazon, of course. Alright, once we have our dough to the 1/4 inch thickness, then we are going to go ahead and cut out our cookies. Today I'm just going to use a circle. Perfect. So now all of the cookies are cut out. Obviously you'll put together all of the unused dough, add it back into the rest of your dough, and you'll keep rolling out the cookies until you've used up all of your dough. Okay, so now that we have all of the cookie dough rolled out, all of the cookies cut, and we put them on your parchment paper cookie sheets, which, by the way, I did make some hearts too. You're going to want to put them in the refrigerator for 15 minutes. And so when I start to put them in the refrigerator and set my timer for 15 minutes, I go ahead and turn my oven on, and I preheat the oven to 375 degrees. So for my gas oven, it kind of comes out to be about 10 minutes or so is what it takes to preheat. Yours might take a little bit longer, electric ovens do. So just use that time for your cookies to be in the refrigerator cooling for at least the 15 minutes. The reason that that is so important is it helps them to keep their shape when you cook them, because they're going to go from being cold and that butter is nice and cold to then they're going to cook, they're going to keep their shape, and they also aren't going to get super brown, but we'll go over that in the next step. Okay, so now the cookies have come out of the refrigerator. They've been in there for 15 minutes. And as I said, my oven is heated to 375 degrees. I do have a gas oven, and it has a convection bake feature on it, and so that's what I use. Do be sure that you set your oven racks to the middle of the oven. It will make a difference. If they're too low, then the bottoms of your cookies will get a little more brown. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cookies in there, and I'm going to set a timer for 9 minutes. It will take between 9 and 11 minutes for the cookies to be perfect. I usually start looking at the 9-minute mark, but I find that the cookies take 11 minutes to cook. See you in 11 minutes. It's now been 11 minutes. The cookies are all baked. And this is what the cookies look like when they came out of the oven. You can see that they aren't really dark. There's a few little brown or light brown spots. So we're going to go ahead and let those cookies sit for 2 minutes on the cookie sheet to cool. And then we're going to take them off after the 2 minutes, and we are going to put them on a rack to cool. You can see those hearts. You know, I had to do the hearts. And from here, you can certainly use frosting, get the kids involved decorating the cookies, and you'll see in the next video I'm going to show you how to make royal icing and how to ice the cookies and have a little fun with them. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed my video of how to make sugar cookie cutouts. Again, remember, I love this recipe because it doesn't taste like a floury cookie. It actually tastes like a sugar cookie. And when I do the royal icing, I'll kind of talk you through how to make that royal icing really taste good too. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.